The modern mind lives in war, not a war with tanks and bombs, but a silent battle fought within one's own head. It's the noise that never turns off, the arguments that continue even after they're over, the weight of always being prepared to react. Everything is interpreted as a threat, a message that takes too long, a sideways glance, a comment that seems indirect. And so, without realizing it, the person lives in a constant state of alert, as if the whole world is about to attack them. The result is simple and devastating. No one can stand living all the time ready to defend themselves. The body stiffens, sleep disappears, and even small irritations turn into emotional storms. Anger grows, fear increases, and silence becomes impossible. The mind tries to solve what the heart feels, and the heart tries to feel what the mind creates. It's a cycle of exhaustion. Think of someone who ends the day without energy, not because they did too much, but because they thought too much. Reliving dialogues, imagining answers they never gave, repeating scenes that have already passed. Each memory becomes an argument, each silence becomes a doubt, and the simple act of existing becomes a sequence of internal micro-battles. It's the invisible overload of a mind that hasn't yet learned to be at peace with itself. Epictetus said that peace is not found by escaping from the world, but by organizing one's own interior, arti. And that's what this video will teach you, how to reorganize your inner world. From now on, you will learn the 7 levels of mental calm, a map that will guide you from chaos to serenity, step by step. In level 1, you will recognize the cycle of repetitive thoughts that keep the mind at war. In level 2, you will learn to name emotions instead of being dominated by them. In level 3, you will understand the power of breathing and posture as anchors of lucidity. In level 4, you will discover how to change the meaning of situations without denying what you feel. In level 5, you will learn output control, mastery over what you express, even when you feel everything. In level 6, you will see how to broaden your vision and understand that nothing that throws you off balance now will matter so much in the future. And in level 7, you will learn the rarest and most powerful state of mind, equanimity, the calm that doesn't depend on the world to exist. Each of these levels is a reconstruction, not of thoughts, but of perception, because in the end, it's not what happens that destroys us, but the way we interpret what happens. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you can continue following this series on mental mastery and inner strength. And tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I want to see how far this message of serenity is reaching. Now let's begin. Take a deep breath. And let's start from the beginning, where all chaos is born, within one's own mind. Level 1. Rumination. The first enemy of calm is not outside of you. It's in the echo of your own mind. It's the voice that doesn't stop, that relives old scenes, that transforms memories into arguments and thoughts into labyrinths. Rumination is the most silent and most common emotional addiction that exists. It's the act of thinking without purpose, like a wheel that spins but doesn't go anywhere. And what seems like reflection is actually self-sabotage, disguised as analysis. Think of a common night. The light is already off, the body tired, but the head doesn't turn off. You go back to that conversation that ended badly, reinterpret the phrases, rehearse answers you'll never say. The mind creates an invisible court, and you are, at the same time, the defendant, the judge, and the lawyer. Each thought brings another, each memory opens another wound. You try to solve the past with the tools of the present, and that never works. Rumination doesn't seek a solution, it seeks control. And since the past is uncontrollable, the brain creates an infinite cycle of attempts to understand. But the understanding that heals doesn't come from repetition, it comes from detachment. While you relive, you don't observe. And without observation, there is no learning, only wear and tear. Imagine a woman who, after an argument, spends days mentally repeating what she heard. Each word comes back with double the weight. She tries to understand why the other person said that, but deep down, she's just keeping alive the wound she wanted to heal. Or a man who blames himself for an old decision goes back to the scene 1,000 times, trying to find the exact point where he went wrong. But time doesn't go back, and the mind, without accepting this, makes him live the same day in silence, repeatedly. Seneca said that he suffers more who fears suffering than he who faces it. Rumination is exactly that. Recycled suffering, without function and without end. It's the unconscious attempt to correct what has already happened, as if thinking were capable of changing the outcome. The first step to calm is to realize when the mind is ruminating. It's the moment when thought stops being a tool and starts being a prison. You notice that you're going in circles when the same subject comes back with the same emotion, without a new conclusion. And at that moment, the simple act of saying to yourself, "I'm stuck in this again," already creates a small space of lucidity. Rumination is a whirlpool. The more you fight, the more you sink. But when you stop resisting and just observe, the whirlpool loses strength. It's that space between thought and observation that begins to return the air. And that's exactly what the next level will teach you. How to name what you feel. And with that, break the emotion's dominance over the mind. Level 2, naming the emotion. The mind begins to calm down at the exact moment you recognize what you're feeling. Not when you try to understand, nor when you try to solve, but when you name it. Because naming is bringing chaos to the ground. It's transforming what dominates you into something you can observe. While the emotion has no name, it swallows you. You feel your chest tight, your breathing short, your body on alert. But you don't know if it's anger, sadness, fear, guilt. So you try to control everything at the same time. And without realizing it, you increase the confusion. Naming the emotion is turning on a light in the dark. It doesn't change what exists, but it changes the relationship you have with what exists. Think of someone who comes home irritated after a hard day, slams the door, speaks loudly, takes it out on people. If asked why, they would say, "I'm fed up, to de saco cheo." But if they stopped for a moment, breathed, and said to themselves, "This is frustration," the anger would already begin to diminish, because when you name it, you separate the observing self from the emotional self. The emotion is still there, but now it has limits, and limits are the beginning of calm. Another example, a woman notices that she feels irritation every time someone talks about success. She thinks it's anger, but when she names it, she realizes it's envy mixed with self-demandingness. The clarity doesn't embarrass her, it frees her, because what is named ceases to be a monster and becomes just part of the human. Epictetus said that no wind is favorable to him who does not know where he is going. Likewise, no mind calms down when it doesn't know what it feels. While the feeling is vague, the mind gets lost trying to interpret it. But when it is named, the body understands that it no longer needs to fight. You are no longer being carried away by the emotion. You are just looking at it. This simple act changes the physiology. Breathing slows down, heart rate stabilizes, the gaze returns to the present. The emotion loses intensity, not because it disappears, but because it ceases to be invisible. And the invisible, when it takes shape, loses power. Calm is not absence of emotion. It's awareness of it. It's the ability to say, "Yes, I'm angry," or "Yes, I'm afraid," and from there, choose what to do with it. That choice is the beginning of inner mastery. In the next level, you will understand how the body participates in this process. Because if the mind creates chaos, the body is what sustains it. And learning to use the body, breathing and posture, is the first physical step to regain mental control. Level 3, breathing and posture. calm is not just a state of mind, it's also a decision of the body. And the body speaks before words, before thoughts, before consciousness. Each short breath says, I'm in danger. Each tense shoulder shouts, I need to defend myself. Each posture bent before life sends the brain the message that you are losing. The body is the mirror of the mind, and also the key to reorganizing it. While you think you're calm, but your chest doesn't expand, the brain still believes something is wrong. While you talk about peace, but keep your jaw locked, it continues to release warning signs. And that's why breathing and posture are the first physical instruments to interrupt mental chaos. Think of someone about to argue. The other person's voice rises, the heart races, the air disappears. But in the midst of this, he does something simple. He takes a deep breath. 1, 2 times. The breathing lengthens, the shoulders lower, the gaze changes. The body understands the command and the brain obeys. There is no magic, there is biochemistry. When the body breathes slowly, the nervous system changes frequency. The brain understands that the danger has passed and the mind returns to the present. Another example, someone who lives hunched over looking down, carrying the weight of the days. This posture communicates defeat to one's own unconscious. But when he straightens up, even tired, the world around him responds differently. The mind reads the body as a sign of safety, and the emotional state transforms. It's as if the body said, "We are in control again." Marcus Aurelius said that the soul is dyed by the color of its thoughts, and the body is the fabric where that color is imprinted. Each gesture, each breath, each micro-tension is an invisible brushstroke of your internal state. Therefore, learning to breathe is learning to think with the body. Breathing is the anchor that prevents mental shipwreck. In moments of crisis, it is the point of return to the present. You don't need to meditate or do complex techniques. Just remember a simple principle: whoever breathes slowly decides slowly, and whoever decides slowly rarely regrets it. The same goes for posture. When the body aligns, the mind organizes. You begin to realize that it is impossible to maintain a firm posture and at the same time feed fragile thoughts. The body is not just a reflection, it's also a command. And when the body obeys the calm, the mind learns that it no longer needs to fight. It is at this point that the next step arises: reframing, learning to change the meaning of things without denying what you feel. Because after the body calms down, it's time to re-educate the thought. Level 4, reframing. The calm mind is not the one that lives in peace, it's the one that knows how to reframe chaos. Reframing is changing the meaning, not the fact. It's looking at the same scenario and seeing a new truth. It's understanding that control is not in what happens, but in the meaning you choose to give. The world doesn't stop testing you. People fail, plans change, the unexpected arrives without warning. But most suffer twice, first for what happened, and then for what they believed about what happened. What destroys is not the event, it's the story that the mind creates about it. And learning to reframe is precisely rewriting that story, without denying the pain, but changing its place within you. Think of a man who lost his job. In the beginning, everything is fear and anger. He feels rejected, devalued, betrayed by fate. But over time, looking again, he realizes that that cut freed him from a place where he was no longer growing. Nothing changed in the fact, the meaning changed. And it is the meaning that decides whether something destroys you or strengthens you. Or imagine a woman who was left by someone she loved. In the first days, she thinks she lost the love of her life. She cries, blames herself, feels the ground disappear. But months later, she understands she didn't lose a love. She rediscovered herself, because in the emptiness that remained, she finally needed to fill herself. And what seemed like the end revealed itself to be the beginning of a more authentic life. Seneca said that a man is unhappy only as long as he believes he is. And this phrase summarizes this level. Unhappiness is an interpretation, not a sentence. Reframing is not lying to yourself. It's choosing an angle that gives you back power. When you change the meaning, you also change the energy. Anger turns into direction, guilt turns into learning, and fear turns into focus. The mind, which previously sought control, now seeks understanding. And understanding is the first step to peace. Try observing what happened to you as if it were a story of another person. How would you tell that same fact if it were part of a movie? Would the villain be the same? Would the hero be who you thought? Sometimes changing the way you tell it is changing the ending. Reframing is, above all, freeing yourself from the emotional version of the facts. It's saying, this hurt, but it also shaped me. It wasn't what I wanted, but maybe it was what I needed. And this small change in mental posture is the beginning of a calm that doesn't depend on circumstances. Now that you have learned to change the meaning of things, comes the next step. Don't control what you feel, but control what you express. The next level is about the most visible mastery of calm, the one that is revealed in the way you react. Level 5. Output control. Most people lose the respect they earn in the second they open their mouths. It is at that moment that all the internal strength, built with so much effort, dissolves. Because true emotional mastery is not measured by what you feel, but by what you choose to show. Output control is the point where impulse asks for the stage and consciousness decides whether to allow it. It's that microsecond between the offense and the response, between the discomfort and the gesture, between the emotion and the word. And whoever learns to master this space inevitably becomes someone calmer, stronger, and rarer. Think of an argument. Someone provokes you, accuses you, distorts what you said. The mind wants to retaliate, wants to explain, wants to prove. But instead of reacting, you observe, breathe, wait. The other person finishes speaking, and the silence protects you. This is the power of output control, responding when the emotion has already calmed down, not when it is in command. An emotionally mature man understands that not everything needs to be said. He chooses the moment, the tone, and even the silence. Because he knows that words, when said in the heat of the moment, do not liberate, they condemn. And often, the phrase you don't say is exactly the one that preserves your peace. Imagine a simple scenario. A driver cuts you off in traffic. Anger arises. The body stiffens. The mind already prepares the gesture, the curse, but you hold back. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. You understand that your energy is worth more than a few seconds of reason. And that choice of not responding to chaos with more chaos is what defines who you are becoming. Marcus Aurelius said that you have power over your mind, not over external events. Output control is the living application of that idea. You don't control what they say to you, but you control how you let it manifest in you. And this is one of the greatest signs of inner evolution, letting the emotion pass without taking you along. Now, think about yourself. How many times have you said something you regretted minutes later? How many times has impulse spoken before reason, and the consequence lasted longer than the emotion? Mastery begins when you learn that time is the filter of wisdom. If an answer still needs heat to exist, it is not yet worthy of being said. Output control is not repression. It's strategy. It's maturity disguised as silence. It's the man who masters the verb so as not to be dominated by regret. And the curious thing is that the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Calm ceases to be an effort and becomes identity. Now that you have learned to control what you express, it's time to look to the horizon and understand the power of perspective. The next level shows how broadening your gaze transforms the size of problems. Level 6, long view. Most people suffer because they see life in short intervals. They want to solve today, what will only make sense in years. They want immediate response, quick recognition, instant peace, but the calm mind is the one that has learned to lengthen time, the one that understands that not everything needs to be resolved now. The short view sees the pain, the long view sees the purpose. While the gaze trapped in the present seeks relief, the expanded gaze seeks learning. And the difference between the two is what defines whether you will live in anxiety or in serenity. Think of someone who lost a job opportunity. The immediate reaction is frustration. Nothing works out for me. But months later, that loss opens space for something much bigger. The pain only made sense because time showed the context. And it's always like that. Clarity rarely comes on the same day as the wound. Or imagine a man who is being wronged. He wants to defend himself, explain, prove, but he chooses silence. He lets time act, and months later, the truth imposes itself alone. He realizes that the haste to react would have only stained his reason, because haste is the enemy of wisdom, and time is the ally of the just. Epictetus said that it is not things that disturb us, but the opinions we have about them. And the long view is precisely the antidote to this disturbance. It forces you to look from above, like someone observing their own path from afar. When you do that, the drama loses intensity, and the mind returns to the center. Anxiety is the art of suffering in advance. Calm is the talent of waiting for the meaning. And the curious thing is that time, the same one that irritates us so much, is also the great purifier of pain. What destroys you today may be exactly what prepares you for something higher. Have you ever noticed how almost everything that kept you awake one day became irrelevant, and how, even without realizing it, you survived all the things you thought you couldn't bear? This is proof that pain is just a point on the map, not the entire map. The long view is the exercise of remembering this while the chaos is still happening. The mind that sees far doesn't react. It observes. It doesn't deny what it feels, but it understands that the feeling is just a wave and that the ocean continues calm even when the surface is agitated. When you start thinking with this amplitude, the present ceases to be a prison. You stop fighting with what happens and start walking with time, like someone who trusts that each step, even uncomfortable, takes you where you need to go. And it is precisely here that the last level is born, the rarest and most desired state of the human mind, equanimity, the serenity that doesn't depend on circumstances to exist. Level 7, equanimity. Reaching equanimity is like returning home after a long war. It's not absence of emotion, it's presence without turbulence. It's when the world remains the same, but something inside you changes place. You still feel anger, sadness, joy, fear, but none of them drag you anymore. You have become the ground where emotions pass, not the wind that carries them. Equanimity is the art of remaining whole while everything oscillates. It's looking at a compliment and an insult with the same serenity. It's understanding that what exalts you and what hurts you are just variations of the same illusion, that something external can define your center. When you lose that illusion, the mind finally rests. Think of a man who before exploded for everything, a delay, an ignored message, a light criticism. Today he breathes, not because he stopped caring, but because he learned to distinguish importance from intensity. He knows that not everything that causes impact deserves a response, and that the world only has the power to hurt him to the point where he allows himself to be hurt. Or imagine a woman who always tried to please, solve, justify herself. Now she smiles and withdraws when she feels that the energy of the conversation has dropped in level, not to win, but to preserve. She understood that peace is not negotiable, and this decision changes everything, because respect is born from the limit, and the limit is born from calm. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a tranquil mind is the fortress from which nothing can expel you. This is the perfect definition of equanimity. You continue living, feeling, loving, making mistakes, but without getting lost. The world can collapse, and even so, there is a point within you that remains untouched. It is the place where fear does not reach, judgment does not enter, and time is not in a hurry. Equanimity is not a destination, it is a silent practice. It is the daily exercise of remembering that not everything needs to be reacted to, explained, or overcome. Some things just need to be crossed. And crossing in peace is the highest form of strength. Perhaps the secret of serenity is not in changing the world, but in observing the world change without losing your balance. It is when you realize that true power is not controlling what happens, but continuing whole while it happens. And if you've made it this far, it means you're ready for it. Ready to stop fighting against the external noise and start silencing the internal one. Because the mind that learns to remain calm in the midst of chaos has already discovered what many spend their lives looking for. That true rest is not sleeping in peace. It is waking up in peace. If this video made you think about the way you react to the world, leave in the comments, "I am training my calm," and continue following the series. The next step is even deeper. After crossing these 7 levels, something begins to change in silence. Life continues with its noises, its unforeseen events, its difficult people, but the way you perceive them is no longer the same. What was once a trigger is now a test. What was once an offense is now just sound, and what once made you react now makes you breathe. This is the true victory, not the end of chaos, but the end of your vulnerability to it. The world doesn't become lighter. You are the one who becomes firmer. Because every time you choose calm instead of impulse, reason instead of pride, silence instead of noise, you build a new version of yourself. And this version no longer depends on approval, victory, or applause. It depends only on awareness. Epictetus said that whoever masters himself is free anywhere, and it is this freedom that you are learning to conquer. Not a physical freedom, but an emotional one. The freedom not to be manipulated by your own mood, not to be kidnapped by anxiety, not to live reacting to what you cannot control. The calm mind is not slow, it is lucid. It does not run away from problems. It observes them with distance. It does not deny emotions. It recognizes them and conducts them. It is the mind that breathes before answering, that sees meaning even in what it does not understand, and that has learned to trust that everything that happens can be used as raw material for growth. Think of how many times you have regretted reacting, and now imagine the opposite, looking back and being proud of your silence. This is the mark of emotional maturity. Not what you say, but what you choose not to say. Calm is the highest degree of strength. And when you reach this point, the world can provoke you at will. You don't react, you understand. And in the middle of the noise, there is a center that no one can touch. This center is what the Stoics called ataraxia. The peace that does not depend on destiny, luck, or others. It is the peace that no one can take away. Breathe, return to the now, and remember this: your calm is your fortress. Protect it every day. If this video made you see something new in yourself, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who always lives on the verge of reaction. And tell me in the comments, at what level of mental calm do you feel you are today? Because in the end, we are all just trying to learn the same thing, to be at peace within ourselves, even when the world out there screams.